Pop Culture Pastor.
Oh, Cody. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. You dig that theme song, don't you?
It is catchy.
It's crazy good. It's haunting, that version of it. I'm a fan. But that theme song is the theme to a little show called From.
It is.
And that is the focus of our watch along for the next however many weeks. Do we know how many episodes this season's going to be?
Nope.
Right.
Wing in a prayer.
We're just going, dog. We're just going. Should we recap the first two seasons of From in the quickest way possible? I mean, we assume that if you're going to listen to this, you are going to be up to date. You're going to be caught up. You're going to be well versed in the show From. But we also understand that this is probably not a heavily watched show, although there's groups upon groups on social media for this show.
So, to start off, basically, you're in a community that everyone's stuck in. You get stuck in a loop. You can't leave the community. You are stuck there. There's like nearby woods that you can go to, but like you're just stuck. You can't ever leave. And all these people are stuck. And then there's creepy things that come out at night, and you don't know how creepy they really are. And then there's like talisman, that these stones that protect you and your house.
Sometimes.
So that the creepy things can't get in. But that doesn't always work. And then there's a group of people that are trying to find a way out. And there's a group of hippies that live up on a hill in a house together. And then there's the normal townsfolk that just reside in all the other buildings. Food magically shows up, but then it stops showing up. That's a thing. And yeah, there's one guy that's lived there probably like 60 years.
Yeah. That is the best description of this show I think I've ever heard.
Thank you.
That's the end of the pod. Pod over. No. Yeah. So it's very much like Lost. So in this way. So this is some of the producers of Lost are involved in producing this show. That's on their advertisements from the producers of Lost. And basically, instead of an island, they're stuck in this area, which leans into more of a horror vibe.
Yep.
Very much a scary environment. Where, and I'm sure we'll talk about this as the watch along goes on, it just seems like it's their lot to suffer here.
As they should.
What? Are we going to go with the Lost theory? They're all in hell or slash purgatory. Are we already going there?
That is a theory that is definitely on the shelf of theories.
Yeah. This show, I will say this for this show, Lost. The theories that surrounded Lost were much more about the inner workings of the island itself. Yes, there were theories about what it was, what was happening, but it was much more around kind of the island as its own character of the show.
Yes.
In a sense. Whereas the theories around this are very much the whole situation. Mm-hmm. What's going on here? And so, and I couldn't even get into the theories at this point. Like, if you explore online the theories going on this show, there are people with, dissertations.
Yeah.
So we will, I'm sure, get into some of that as our watch along season goes on with season 3 of From. But I suppose it's time for us to just get into the show.
Yeah. I gave you where we're at up to maybe the last episode of the last season. Yeah. Because I didn't dive into who ventured out and who might have accidentally made it out.
Yeah. I should tell you that this is Pop Culture Pastor Watch-Alongs. My name is Dave. Cody is here.
I am.
We are the co-hosts of Pop Culture Pastor, the podcast. And on Watch-Alongs, we pick a show, we watch the show, we talk about it. We love to get into the deeper themes and things like that. And what you should know is from here on out, there will be massive spoilers.
So many spoilers.
So if you have not seen episode 1 of season 3, or any of the seasons for that matter, you should probably stop listening.
Binge watch it.
Binge watch it, come back. We'll be here waiting. All right, Cody, right off the bat, to start off every watch-along pod for this show, we're going to do the What Am I Watching Award. What am I watching? What is going on? The thing that freaked you out most this episode, what was it?
So this, I have a tie, and it's weird because they're polar opposite things.
Okay.
And one might speak to the generation time that we're living in. But I'll go with the creepy ooh one, Tien Chulu's head.
Oh, gosh.
Like when they set the trap and then they're like, we're going to rip this out. And yeah.
Oh, boy.
It got nasty looking.
Yeah, that's a good one. We'll talk about that in the recap for sure because it's a big point.
And I'm like, why are we showing this?
Yeah. And they don't. They filmed it very carefully. Like they concentrate on Boyd's face.
Yes.
When they start really getting into it, but you do see her lose like the back half, or not half, but the back part of her head.
Mm-hmm.
That was rough, man. And you hear it. More than anything else, it's the hearing, and you're like,
And I think the way they framed it was perfect for, like, you're just seeing it play out on his face, and you know how, excruciating bad it is. So that was clever.
Meanwhile, the viewers just go to a happy place. Go to a happy place. Yeah, what was the other one?
Okay, so the other one, Tabitha asked to borrow a phone, and then she starts to walk off with it.
Yeah, what was she doing?
I'm like, you can't steal this person's phone.
I mean, are you not reading the vibe tabs? The friend is already annoying.
They really did not want you to use it. Like, you can't roam off. You just got to step like one step to the side and make that phone call.
What's with the friend, though? The friend was like, does she think she's going to catch the plague from her? What's happening?
So
does she think she's homeless and she's just reacting
homeless
poorly?
Or is having a mental illness breakdown? Because, I mean, the way she presents, she's kind of presenting like she's someone in shock, someone that might be a little manic.
Yeah.
Like, she seems a little off. You're also told, don't talk to strangers, and these are two young ladies.
Oh, they're at least 17.
Two young ladies. And this stranger that looks a little rough, that has cuts and bruises and is acting weird. Yeah, I don't blame the friend. I blame Tabitha.
Twice she says, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that.
I'm with you, friend. I'm with you.
All right, those are good point outs of the episode for What Am I Watching? What's going on here? We'll lead off every episode with Cody's thoughts on that. It's time to just get into the recap. Now, I've separated this out into the kind of the main stories of the episode. We'll start with Tabitha, who, of course, you got to start there because season 2 ends with that jaw-dropping moment where the kid in white pushes her out of the lighthouse, says this is the only way, and she wakes up in a hospital in what appears to be the real world.
Yes.
And so it starts right where it leaves off. She wakes up on the 14th floor of the hospital in Camden.
That seems awfully tall.
Yeah, right? Camden, Maine doesn't seem that big. That appears to be a big hospital. She gets questioned by the doctor. It's obvious the hospital staff is suspicious of abuse, and she overhears that the police are on their way.
Her not talking to anyone was super weird to me.
Yeah. Is she suspicious that she's not in the real world, that this is a trick?
I just figured she was worried that if she asked them about all these things, that she might get locked up into a psych unit or something.
Yeah. So she does say that. She's like, who would believe me?
But at the same time, I'm like, ask the date at least. Try to figure out how much time has passed from your recollection to now.
That's a good point. Tabitha, could you look at a newspaper? Something, please. Throw us a bone here. There are people waiting to write 10-page dissertations on this episode.
I had my pen out and was ready to put the quill to the paper.
Yeah, the paper he borrowed from John Adams, apparently. A quill? She sneaks out of the hospital because the police are coming, and that makes her nervous. She's afraid they're going to send her to the White Hats, you know. And she spots the mysterious boy in white pretty quickly. She calls out to him. He's not interested in talking. Let me ask you this. Do you think the boy in white is really there, or do you think this is like residual stuff hanging on in her head? Like, because that would speak to maybe what the bad place is.
I do think that it's not like residual leftover memories.
Or like drug induced. I guess what I'm saying is, if we think that it's supernatural, then he's there. Right?
Yeah, he's there.
If
we
mind. Think it's like government experiments or something, that it may be residual drugs, whatever left in her.
Yeah, no, I feel he is there. And if you're going with a weird allegory of Dante's Inferno theory, which some people out there are saying, he might be guiding her back up.
Okay. I will say there's no definitive either way of which of one of those being true, because it goes a little bit more the residual when she thinks she's caught up to him and it's some other kid wearing white.
That was the most obvious thing in the whole show, because I'm like, that's not going to be him when she gets there.
That's true.
I said it to my wife, and then she's like, oh, you're right. And I'm like, I know, it was too easy.
She borrows a girl's phone, which we talked about already. The girl's friend is really annoying. But this is kind of a huge moment because Tabitha calls her mom. Mom is very distraught. It's clear that the residents of From-ville have been considered missing persons in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
Does this phone call prove to you that she's in the real world?
No.
Explain.
So I have my own theories, two to be distinct. But I don't think that, because the mom really doesn't give any information besides, where have you been? Everyone assumed you were missing or dead, and that's it. So, like, you don't get any concrete, like...
But she is distraught. It's not out of character for someone who would be upset.
So, like, it seemed like a normal conversation, but you don't get any clues as to, like, oh, we elected a new president while you were away, or something.
Yeah, there's no basis for time here.
Yes.
Which is alarming. In a real-world conversation, she might have said right off the bat, we haven't seen or heard from you in 6 months.
Yeah.
Right? But that's not uttered. So that's a little fishy.
And if you go with the Dante Inferno, like...
Oh. Are you kind of leaning towards the Dante's Inferno theory?
Not particularly. But it definitely lends itself like, oh, we're just gradually going up a level.
Okay.
Like, it's a little less worse.
So she gets desperate at this point, and she heads for a church. Which at this point, I'm like, oh, it's on. It's on, Cody.
She's finding Jesus.
No, not that. But like now I'm thinking we're going to get to the bottom of this now, because if it is supernatural, if it's demonic, whatever's happening here, you have to understand, if you're listening to this podcast, Cody and I are ministers.
I was really hoping that we were going to bring in a young priest or an old priest to balance this out. If there was like demon possession.
She walks into the confessional, which then it gets weird for us because we're not Catholic.
It's different, not weird.
No. Right. No offense. I'm not trying. Come on. I wasn't trying to say Catholics were weird. I'm just saying it's weird to us.
Yes.
Because we don't do that. And so she goes into the confessional, and for the briefest of moments, did you think that was going to be Father Kotri in there?
No.
No.
I had hoped that it would be, but then that would be very confusing.
Yeah, if they do that, then you immediately know none of this is real. Yeah. So this is going to go on all season, probably, her adventures in the real world. She shares some things, but she leaves only to be followed by the priest, who's like asking her more questions. Is this strange behavior for a priest? Did you get a weird vibe from him?
So I will say there is a push, especially within bigger cities, of getting help for those who need help, even if it's like mental health.
Yeah.
For a clergy member to be concerned about some things because he wanted her to eat, he wanted her to keep sharing, to feel more safe, to feel more calm and relaxed, but she wasn't about that lifestyle. So, like, it does seem outside a traditional viewpoint, but I don't think that it's necessarily out of the realm of what a man of the cloth may do in that situation.
I tend to agree. There was some folks online who were thinking that the priest was acting shady, that there was something up with him. I disagree. I think she shared that she'd lost a child. He tries to keep her talking about that. He wants her to share more. And he's generally, I think, just trying to care about her because he senses what anyone would looking at her, listening to her, that she's distraught.
Yep.
He eventually, in the course of the conversation, gets her to open the lunchbox. She's carrying Victor's lunchbox.
You thief!
And this was another reason people thought maybe the priest was a little weird because maybe he was trying to get her to look in that the whole time. But lo and behold, there's an address in there. And it's Victor's earthly address. And so she's like, I got to go. Got to get out of here. She goes to the address, which just, luckily enough, happens to be in Camden, Maine. Did you think that was weird or you just roll with it?
I would think that the location of this place would have to be close to the location you get kicked out.
Okay. She goes there. She sees this guy. Dude appears to be Victor's dad. He reacts to the name Victor and to the lunchbox. His age seems a little off.
I was like, oh, I feel you should be older.
Yeah.
Unless Victor really aged poorly.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, okay, is there going to be a time discrepancy? Maybe the mom's distraught, but maybe not distraught as someone who'd been gone for like 6 months. She might be distraught for someone who's been out of contact with her daughter who she talked to every day for 2 weeks. And what if Victor's dad has only been without Victor for a couple of years? I don't know how the time, I'm not doing math here, but
yeah.
But his age, he definitely doesn't seem old enough.
Because for a brief second, I'm like, is Victor on the outside?
Yeah, they did find a guy that looks like him.
Way to go.
The next big storyline of the episode is Jim, and Kenny. This is going to be the weirdest team up ever. Ethan, Jim and Tabitha's son, goes off on his own at the beginning of the episode to look for his mom, which, as we can all agree, is a bad idea in From-ville for kids to be, just wandering off alone. This sort of convinces Jim to go out looking. Like, I'm going to go find Tabitha, my wife, my kids need a mom. Kenny says, if you're going, I'm going.
The logic doesn't hold up.
No, it does not. I'm like, what? Why, Kenny? Why are you going with him?
I mean, I get it that there's safety in numbers sometimes, but you guys completely abandoned your safe strategy. So,
yeah. So Jim and Boyd mentions to Jim that if something happens to him, then his children are parentless. Is this foreshadowing? Is Ethan the next Victor? Is the show preparing for a time jump? Could a time jump happen? You see what I'm saying? Like, that seemed weird that he would point out, you're going to leave your kids parentless. And then you're like, why did he say that?
I kind of went back and forth on like why he said it. And maybe it was more foreshadowing of things to come in this episode.
Yeah.
I do think that it is possible to time jump in this show. But you either do it at the midway point of the season or you do it at the very end of the season.
Yeah, I agree.
And have the time jump take place off camera.
I just wanted you to see, wanted to get your reaction about my time jump theory that it could happen, because I think the previews for next week have already ruined that. I think we see them both back in town.
Well, I mean, for a little bit.
Jim and Kenny go off looking for the things Boyd described, but find completely different things. There's nothing that Boyd experienced is there. Instead, they get a completely different kind of layout and find a different thing. Is the world around them variable? It doesn't seem static.
I wondered if maybe they just took a wrong turn, because Kenny kept saying, well, let's go back to this point and then try this direction. And James is like, no, sirree, Bob. We're going to keep on keeping on.
They find what looks like a Middle Ages village with weird, creepy effigies, mannequins, whatever you want to call them, all around it. Jim suggests camping there for the night, which I immediately was like, well, why would you do that?
Doesn't sound like the safest strategy.
It reminded me of Dan Aykroyd in Ghostbusters when they buy what's going to be their base, their building, and it's all cobwebby and nasty. And he's like, we should stay here tonight. We should sleep here. And the other guys are like, That was my reaction. I'm like, I don't know, man. That seems like a bad idea. They're in the building, one of the little huts, and after hearing strange noises, Jim finally shows some signs of logic where he expresses regret that he came out and left his kids and says they'll go back in the morning. Is this whole storyline just to get Kenny out of town? Is that the only reason this makes sense?
Get Kenny out of town, make both of Jim's kids not have a parental figure around for some of this.
To me, it seems like a weird piece of writing, but I wonder if Tabitha's going to be gone all season or most of the season, they would have to explain why because Jim's been kind of rash since he got there. He's been kind of bullheaded and rash, just wants to do things. He wants to get things done. He wants to leave. He's always wanted to do something. So they would have to explain his change of heart if he didn't just go looking for her immediately. So I feel like it makes sense if that's the direction they're going, because he's going to have to come to some realization that Boyd is right, that you don't want to leave your kids without anybody here. So you're just going to have to be patient, my dude, and play it safe.
Yes.
Anyways, that's the end of that main storyline. The others, one of the other main storylines, the Colony House. Last season, the freakish storm took out some of their crops. If we flash forward to now, and something in the ground has killed the rest of them.
The Colony House is the hippie house.
Yes, that they call the Colony House on the show,
and I call it the hippie house in
Yes.
my house.
From-ville, Cody is out of food. Panic ensues. The From-villians raid Tien Chen's storehouse.
Rude.
Yeah, right? Gosh, why? Man.
She's the nicest person on the whole show, and you are raiding her house.
I know, and given what's about to happen to her, this is how we honor that? Not happy about it. The town leaders meet, decide the livestock are their best chance of survival. Question, Cody, why are the monsters just now getting strategic?
So
They didn't seem strategic for most of the show so far. They were just killers.
it is maybe a reactive response or an adaptive response, because they had finally suffered loss of their own. The monsters had. It seems like the villagers are more organized. We're now going to be more organized.
They're getting courageous and kind of venturing out more. Tabitha may have found something. I don't know what, but yeah, I kind of agree with that. All those possibilities. It seems like, okay, that explains why the monsters would get a little bit more smart.
Yeah.
And a little bit more on the offensive, I suppose, as far as how they were going about it. Randall, the From-villian villain, I guess. He came in on the bus that happened at the end of season 1, season 2 premiere. And he's kind of been the town pariah ever since he got there. He also realizes the livestock are the best chance of survival, tries to abscond with one. Victor, in the commotion and the arguing, pulls a gun.
Oh, Victor.
And we have a foreshadowing alert. Cody, foreshadowing alert. They never show you an unexpected gun if it doesn't come up later.
Someone pulls a gun. You just be prepared for some death.
Is Boyd the one that ends up with the gun?
Yeah, Boyd finally gets it away from Victor.
Yeah, he talks him down. He diffuses the situation. It's all very tense. And Randall backs down eventually, which he seems to do. That seems to be the pattern. The other big thing is the attack of the monsters, right? That's the final storyline, the kind of the one the episode ends on. The monsters execute this elaborate attack, and I mean elaborate. Like, it's smart. They let the livestock out. They set up this trap in the barn to capture Boyd and Tien Chen. Boyd is mocked by the monsters because he said this place wouldn't break him. He's forced to watch the monsters torture and kill Tien Chen as the credits run. Poor Kenny. It reminds me of South Park.
Yeah.
They killed Kenny's mom.
Can't finish it.
Yeah. That scene was rough, man. That scene, we already kind of talked about it. Some of the bonus storylines, Jade continues to be driven crazy by the symbol that is also on the talismans. And this brings us to From-spiracy. It's time for our From-spiracy segment.
Yes.
Cody has a crackpot theory concerning
do.
Jade.
Okay, so while I was watching Jade, because Jade has like drunk himself into a stupor, but has started placing like yarn all over the place and tying things up and making all these tunnels and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I got two From-spiracies.
He's a bit obsessed, yes.
Yes. First one is that to enter From-ville, if you will, like you go through like a portal wormhole.
Okay.
And there's other exits throughout, but the wormholes might take you to different places in time.
All right.
Maybe the same location, but different times within. So that's one.
Okay.
The other one is this is someone that is in the hospital that has dementia.
The whole thing.
Yep.
This is
The
someone
whole
with
show.
dementia. The whole show.
Is like Alzheimer's dementia ward.
That would be super sad.
It would be.
That is like a depressing. I want to go back to the portals.
Okay.
So if you were going to slip into the From-ville world through a portal, where would it be from? And if it was me, why would it be a Taco Bell bathroom? That's totally where I would slip through. I'd walk out of that Taco Bell bathroom and be in the From-verse and be like, what? I was just eating a bean burrito.
Where is the Fiesta potatoes?
No Fiesta potatoes here. All we have are a few cows left. And a
Because
goat.
there clearly is like this element of different time era entities and buildings and things. And so maybe it all happens around Camden, but it's throughout history. I don't know.
Now, it can't be because he's got the map in his office that shows where all the people came from, where they were
Well,
when they slipped in.
I'm still going with the portal.
No. They could be portals anyway.
Yes.
Hence the Taco Bell bathroom.
I'm feeling the exit is always around Camden, though.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Elgin and the visions of the dead kimono lady. What's happening here? What? Who is this? Why? This doesn't make any sense to me.
Let this guy either sleep or let him stay awake all the time.
This poor guy is experiencing Nightmare on Elm Street proportion, lack of sleep.
He's very prophetic with his dreams.
Yeah. And I do not understand the kimono lady. This isn't making any sense to me.
I have a thought, but I don't know if it's flushed out enough to voice it yet.
Fatima, how do you say her name?
I would have went Fatima just
Okay.
because that's how the village in
That's how
Italy. That's how
That's how they say it in Italy.
one of the most supernatural things within the Catholic Church and within the 20th century happens at Fatima.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up.
It does lean back into a faith thing going on here.
Yeah. Is that a clue? I thought that as well. I'm like, is her name Fatima because there was a Vatican stamped miracle?
Yes.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. She's got morning sickness, Cody. Fatima does. She has said earlier in the show she shouldn't be able to get pregnant, yet she does. Cody, is this a monster baby? I'm getting all the V vibes. Remember the TV show V? You wouldn't because you were born in 1989. But the show V on in the 80s was about aliens coming to Earth and mixing in with humans. And like one of the most terrible storylines was a human that has an alien baby.
I was going to call this Demon Baby.
I didn't want to get too faith stuff. That's why I didn't say it.
Well, with a name like Fatima, you are going to get labeled Demon Baby.
All right, fine. Is it a demon baby?
It's either a demon baby or a divine baby.
I just don't want this to happen. I'm scared of this.
I'm worried about her significant other.
Yeah. Ellis is not going to be doing well. All right, that's kind of the gist of this episode. Cody, what did you think was good about this episode?
There is something that at first I was really bothered by with this show. And that is that like the characters really don't communicate that much. But now that we're in these dire straits where there's like no food, everyone's at each other's throats. And they kind of had been off and on throughout the first 2 seasons. I'm like, this is actually probably really close to how people would behave. That when you're in fight or flight mode and the intense levels of it, your communication levels go down because your prefrontal cortex goes offline. So like rational thoughts kind of go out the window and communicating with others is going to go out the window. People that are more adjusted will be able to react better than what a lot of the others would be able to. And so like I think that's why Boyd for the most part acts mostly rational. If you're going to be in law enforcement, you're going to have some of those more stressful situations and you got to be able to try to keep cool and collected. So that part actually is working for me now, that they're not communicating. I still am upset with Tabitha for not communicating because for all intensive purposes, she seems relatively safe.
Yeah. Yeah. It does make sense that the way you explain it, because humans that are scared and, getting hurt, fight or flight, like you said, the idea would be to isolate and compartmentalize. Mm-hmm. So, and the monsters only come out at night. So it makes sense that they're just trying to make it through the day. And this, so they can get inside at night, compartmentalize. And so, yeah, it makes sense that they wouldn't communicate real well. But yeah, it does seem like they're coming around to a place where they can kind of be better communicators and plan better. The colony house seems a little bit more connected to From-ville now.
Well, at least the higher ups in Colony House.
And they're going to have to be. Because now they're going to have this food crisis thing is going to go on all season, I assume.
Yeah.
What's with some of the monsters changing into like monsters? Like most of the time they've been humans who smile creepy, like the movie, that Smile movie. In this episode, there were a couple of them that changed to monsters and did the weird scream thing. Like Ross and Friends pretending to be a velociraptor.
So my first couple thoughts are, maybe when they're like camouflaging, when they're looking like normal-esque, and they really are these creepy things, and when they're about to eat or something, they look like this. Or if this is all inside a kid's imagination, then the monsters, of course, are going to look even scarier when things are just the darkest.
Any chance that there's a crackpot theory out there that this is all a creation of Victor's head?
Oh, there are. I know that much.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of people that think this is Victor-centric. Where if I go Victor-centric, I think that he's like experiencing dementia.
Yeah, think about it like a Professor X type of character in the Marvel comics who can literally shape people's view of reality.
So you're going superhero,
or like
Victor.
Legion like would be a good example, who is Professor X's son in the comics, who can like literally make people think they're living like in a different reality. He can change the fabric of their senses, what they're sensing, right? So maybe this is all Victor, who's just really special. I don't know. What was good for me, Harold Perrineau as Boyd. His acting, especially in the last scene.
Last scene, give him all the awards.
You mentioned it because they can't just show us the monsters peeling the skin off of Tien Chen. That would be too much. Although they did drop the F-bomb like 3 times in this episode.
Sailors.
I'm not sure what was happening there. But they can't show us that. The screenwriters probably should get some credit, but him saying "you're so brave" as the only comfort he can offer her while she's being tortured to death is absolutely gut-wrenching.
It was.
I mean, that was, and it ending with you still being able to hear him saying that and her, reacting in pain while the credits are rolling. Oh my goodness. That was like, just straight gut punch to end the episode, and his acting sets it up before the screen goes black, which leads me to my second thought on what was good this episode. The horror is back.
It is.
In this episode. This is a lot like Lost. It's a Lost-like show, but if it was a horror movie, if it was a show steeped in horror, the ending of this is just absolute nightmare fuel.
I kind of wonder if you base your shows kind of as modern day allegories for old allegories. So that's why I keep throwing Dante's Inferno. If like Lost might have been Milton's Paradise Lost or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're getting at.
Not saying it works completely, but there's enough there.
Yeah, that's a good thought. It's a good thought. Do you have anything that's not so good this episode?
I want to say that the guy that lives in the bus is the worst, Randall, but in wrestling terms, he's a heel, and he gets all the heat.
He definitely was brought there. Like, he is the show's heel.
Oh,
but he's
I
heroic.
Get so angry at him, and then he finally does something nice for once.
Yeah, he's heroic in this episode. He gives the people that are stuck out there a place to come on the bus and be safe.
Jim and Kenny's that storyline's kind of the weird one for me. Besides, it gives them a chance to be gone while Jim's kids are at risk of being captured, and Kenny's mom is no longer with us.
Right. So structurally to the story, it makes sense that they have to be gone so that they can come back to the news of what's happened. You would think Kenny would not have let Chen, his mom, out into that. So in a lot of ways, structurally, it makes sense. I would call some of this the Lost effect, where there are so many characters. Some of the storylines are more interesting than others. Hello, Elgin and the Kimono Ghost. I don't care.
So I actually do care about Elgin. Him and Jade might be the two that I actually care about the most.
Jade, I'm into the Jade storyline.
But I can honestly do without most individuals in the colony house.
Yeah, Ellis and Fatima, don't care.
Yes. Donna, she kind of gets on my nerves most of the time.
Christy, Kenny's ex crush. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't care if I never see her again. She wasn't hardly in this episode. It was the best thing ever. No offense to the actress, but that character is woefully underwritten, and there's just so many characters. I can't possibly care about them. Before we get to our final ratings, we did lose a character this week, which means it's time for Rip. We got a Rip, have a Rip segment. Do you want? I'll take the honors on this one. Maybe if you could just hum a little bit.
Rest in pieces.
Hum. Yeah. Tien Chen, you kept the town organized. You were a good mom. Such a good mom. You were like the spiritual mom to the entire From-ville town. It is with sadness, Cody, at her death, but with appreciation of her life, we now commit the body of Tien Chen to the annals of Hollywood history. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. We hardly knew you. I mean, we didn't. We did. She'd been around 2 seasons and 1 episode.
Gone too soon.
Gone too soon. That's what I meant to say. That's what I meant to say. Cody, how many rotten radishes are you getting this episode out of 10?
So for the first episode back, I'll go 8.
Yeah. I'm giving it a 9. This is a great episode.
It is a great episode. There was a little bit more. I think it focused in on too many storylines for me.
I agree.
That like the ones I wanted to follow, we didn't follow close enough, and we left some cliffhangers with some ones that I was kind of intrigued by. And
I think this show is at its best when it embraces the horror aspect.
yes,
And so the whole last 10 minutes of this show and the monster attack is just, this show at its best. I'm looking forward to next week.
oh yeah,
Kenny's not. It's going to be bad for Kenny. My man Kenny's going to go off the deep end.
hopefully they eat Ethan's goat first.
Why would you do that, man? He just likes the goat. Can you kill the goat first so it doesn't lose all its friends? I want to be like my man Ethan. That's a goat. It doesn't have friends.
It did, and my wife definitely felt that.
All right, everybody. What did you think of From Season 3, Episode 1? Tell us. You should follow us on social media first. Then on the post for this episode, tell us what you liked, what you didn't like, what you agree with, what you don't agree with. We'd be interested to hear it. Of course, subscribe, follow all our social medias, give us a review, give us a rating on the sites that let you do that sort of thing. And we will see you on the next watch along episode.